Latest in the Bears coaching search is this. You can cross Mike Vrabel off the list. I think everybody sort of knew that that was going to be the case, right? That he was going to end up in New England, and he certainly did. According to Diana Rossini, the Bears made a late push. We're very much still trying to talk to Mike Vrabel. They never got a chance to talk to Mike Vrabel in person. I still don't understand that. I don't. I unless I missed some logical explanation over the weekend. I don't think I have. Yeah. I still don't get not talking to him in person.
What kind of push was this? What are we really talking about?
I don't know.
Some late push.
I also read over the weekend, I was reading Sports Mockery over the weekend. I don't know if they had just, forgive me if they had aggregated something or if one of their guys was talking about. I feel like it was something that they were writing, that one of their guys was writing, that they had heard that George McCaskey was actually blown away by Mike Vrabel in the Zoom meeting.
In the Zoom meeting.
Yeah. Again, I don't know why this wasn't done in person. And Bears fans, I think a very small little sect of them were
saying it
wasn't a big deal, but it is a big deal. We've been offered up no reasonable or logical explanation as to why they wouldn't take a stab at him in person and try to sell your franchise on him if you were that high on him. I don't get it.
Your dilemma is when one of the best candidates that is out there is there. You've got to maneuver and position yourself where you do all your due diligence, not only on the guy that you bring, that you're going to interview, but you do all your due diligence beforehand, the interviews that are necessary to do. If your plan is that, hey, this guy is that impressive, once you let him go and he goes someplace else and you've got a list of 17 to 20 candidates that all of a sudden you want to interview because you want to do something, odds are you're going to miss out on the best guy unless something stops him from taking a job. And right now, the Ben Johnsons, the Aaron Glenn's of the room, Steve Spagnuolo, anybody else that's out there,
Aaron Glenn,
Liam Cohn, who's available now.
Yeah. He's available now. They lost. Yep.
But, all those guys that are out there that couldn't really interview, you have to wait on. They're the ones you can wait on. You afford the luxury of waiting on those guys. Vrabel, you couldn't afford to wait on. So if you really wanted him, you needed to be ready to capitalize. You need to do everything you need to do up to the point where you talk to him. And if he impressed the hell out of you, and he won the room, and he won the interview, whatever the hell you want to call it, you needed to be ready to capitalize and go after him. When you find out he's going someplace else, and they're enamored with him because he had played there, and there it is. Now all of a sudden in the 11th hour, you want to go chasing him down with a silver slipper and saying, oh, this thing, not a silver, a glass slipper. Oh, look, we got the... No, he's gone. He's gone.
That ship sailed.
Then what are you, a late effort? You made a late push for what? For what? You had your chance and your opportunity, but because you decided you wanted to interview 150 people, he's gone. And the possibilities of that happening over and over with jobs opening up, Pittsburgh job they're talking about might be open.
Yeah, I don't know.
The Dallas one is open.
The Dallas one's open.
Does that get me out of Wienergate?
No, it doesn't, unfortunately.
It doesn't? Darn.
We were eating wieners.
Yeah.
Me, you, and Abdallah are eating wieners.
I'd love to be able to get out of it.
No, can't do it. But Jurko did say that the Dallas job was going to come open. You're right.
That McCarthy was not going to go back there. Yes.
Bears can now talk to Mike McCarthy. Is Mike McCarthy the favorite to get the Bears job right now? Yes or no, people?
Oh, that's what it looks like.
I still don't know how I feel about that, man. I've been a critic of his. I think there are clock management issues. Watching him coach over the years, especially as the years have gone on, I'm like, I just don't get it.
He's built for the cold weather.
Now, my criticisms aside, Mike McCarthy has a 6.08 winning percentage. We'll round up for him. He's won 61% of his games coaching in the NFL. That's really good.
Yeah.
61% of his games he's won. He has an 11-11 playoff record, so he's 500 in the playoffs. He has won a Super Bowl. He's called plays, whether it's been the head coach or an offensive coordinator, for 24 seasons in the NFL. In over half of those, 14 to be exact, his offenses have finished in the top 10 in points, and in 13 seasons, they finished in the top 10 in offensive yards. Like blind, if you put that in front of me, I'd go, hey, that's a pretty impressive candidate.
Pretty good candidate.
And that said, I do not think he's a great head coach. And you can come after me all day, and that's fine. And if he's the Bears' choice, I'm just sort of lukewarm on it. That's maybe the way it's going to be. I'll give him a few bonus points for watching that Dallas team not roll over this year, because that team could have rolled over. And the lasting image, I think, for a lot of us Bears fans of the way this season unraveled is this team not responding after a bad loss in Washington. And Mike McCarthy's Cowboys, with everything that went against them, the ridiculous season that their owner put them through, the ridiculous offseason, and it was ridiculous. They're signing guys like CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott as they go to training camp, as they start the season. It was Sunday of week 1 when Dak Prescott finally got paid. Like, you know, not improving their running back room when they could have. And then Jerry Jones making excuses about it afterwards. Like, everything that their owner did and their general manager did to sabotage them, all the injuries they had, if any team could have quit, it could have been the Dallas Cowboys.
And they didn't.
And they didn't.
They didn't quit. Matter of fact, they were upset they weren't winning.
Yeah. And so I have to give Mike McCarthy some credit for that. I'm going to put that poll up. I know Sylvie's the poll king, but
no, you do.
I'm going to put it up. Like,
is
Mike McCarthy the favorite to get the Bears job? And I'm not talking about the betting favorite. I don't think he would still.
He's the
betting favorite. But all of a sudden, it's starting to feel like amongst Bears fans, they're going to end up with Mike McCarthy.
Nothing's changed. Ben Johnson is still the guy I want.
Yeah, that would be my choice.
Ben Johnson is still the guy I want.
Especially without Vrabel.
Right, Vrabel's gone. Ben Johnson is still the man I want.
I think so.
Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Problem is, you start getting patient. There's a couple openings, 3 openings still. As you wait, you know, you might be left without a chair. When the music stops, you're going to be left without a chair. And what do you do then? Now you're settling for something.
Do you really think Pittsburgh could be open, and would Mike McCarthy fill that void? If Pittsburgh becomes, would this be like they like switch spots? Mike Tomlin goes to Dallas and
possible.
Mike McCarthy goes to Pittsburgh.
Possible.
I can't see the Steelers doing it. I get Steelers fans' frustrations.
I would think that McCarthy would look at the quarterback situation here and like this quarterback situation better than he would like Pittsburgh's.
There is no quarterback situation in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah,
and it's what's sinking Tomlin in that franchise right now. Sinking. I mean, I wish the Bears were always 10-7, but in a sense, that's what's happening. Like, because he's good enough, they're really never bad enough to go out in the draft in the top 5 or 10 and find a quarterback. They obviously haven't been able to replace Big Ben. Their quarterback situation is a disaster. They don't have a quarterback on their roster that they're going to go to battle with next year, I wouldn't think. I don't think it's Justin Fields. I don't think it can't be Russell Wilson. I mean, there's just no way. They have now, they finished the year on a 5-game losing streak. Pittsburgh hasn't won a playoff game since 2016. Tomlin's lost 6 straight postseason games. So I understand why they're frustrated, and they've maybe have gotten to the point where they've kind of had enough. I don't think the ownership group there reacts quite the same way. But they're in a weird spot. Because, again, Tomlin, and he's good enough, obviously, that they're always in this position, that they make the playoffs most season. They're always going to win about 10 games. But by doing that, you're picking 20th and you're ending up with Kenny Pickett. And, good luck. You know, the Lamar Jacksons of the world, one that falls in your lap at 32, or, you know, the Tom Brady's, obviously, the Joe Montanas of the world, they're the rarity. They're still a little tricky to come by.
Yeah.
You know, they kind of are.
Well, would you put Tony Romo in there, who wasn't even drafted?
That's rare.
Yeah.
That's very rare.
To have 7 teams, to have every team in the league pass on a guy at least 7 times.
Right, yeah.
And then,
that's very rare.
Then he ends up somewhere and ends up flourishing.
Yeah, I think it's tough to get by that way. And they haven't, they're obviously learning what a lot of other franchises, our beloved franchise included, like how hard it can be. And when you have a great one and then that one's gone, not speaking of hard, not everybody gets to do what Green Bay's done. So they're in a weird spot, man. That Steelers team, they looked awful Saturday night. Just downright awful,
bad.
And the one thing you can normally hang your hat on there is
they play defense.
Yeah, they gave up 300 rushing yards.
299 to be exact, Carm.
I'm going to round up here.
All right.
They gave up. All right, I'll go more factually. Here it goes right. They gave up 299 rushing yards in a playoff game. Come on. Come on.
Well, our team once gave up 300-plus yards in a playoff game.
Rushing?
Jacksonville against Denver, 1997.
After
the 97 campaign.
Was it Terrell?
Oh, it was Terrell Davis. It was Mike Anderson. It was Orlando Scary. Yeah, just name all the running backs that had one hell of a day against us.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough look. And so that team looked terrible. They
I wasn't playing. Don Davey wasn't playing. Kelvin Pritchett wasn't playing.
Oh, that's a big
We
loss.
had youngsters. We had 3 starting defensive tackles out.
Yeah.
And we went with whatever crew that we had, a young Seth Payne.
Those are 3 pretty big losses. Love me some Seth
Jose
Payne.
White. You remember the great Jose White?
I don't remember Jose White.
Not many do.
I do not.
Well, you ask him, he'd tell you how great he was. But,
I don't remember. I remember Seth for sure. I don't remember Jose White.
300-plus yards.
Yeah,
the Ravens racked up 299. How about Saquon for everybody that bet the over? I think the over on Saquon was 104.
Boy, that's a huge over.
It's a big number, 104. Cold weather, I guess they gave the ball to Derrick Henry and they fed Derrick Henry. The Baltimore Ravens, I felt that they felt like they were going to feed. Last play,
he went down.
He pops it.
Yeah.
He had 102 going into that.
Oh, boy.
And so he gained 20 yards. He went over the 104. So anybody who bet him is a happy camper, right?
Here's the thing. If I'm getting ready to face the Eagles now, minus, this is going to sound weird, and I'm just like try to follow here. Minus his first run of the game and his last run of the game, Green Bay actually did a pretty good job against him, right, Chris? Like, I'm not crazy. I didn't imagine that. It was like, his numbers still look good at the end. They did, because he touched the ball a lot, and he had that big run to start the game. He had like a 17-yard gain to start, and then he popped the big one, and he slid at the end. Outside of that, they held him to like 4.1 yards per carry on all of his other touches. And to me, that is a huge win. This is a guy that averaged like 5.5 yards a carry during the regular season. If you can do your best to keep Saquon to about 4.2 to 4.5 yards per carry, I feel like you won. So I actually thought Green Bay did a decent job against him, as crazy as that sounds with all the yards he got, Yerk. And I thought they just rallied to him. They were sure-handed when they tackled him, and they wrapped up, and they rallied to him. So as lousy as Green Bay was offensively and as weird as that game was, I think Green Bay's defense played tough. I really thought they did. I thought they played tough, and I thought they did about as good of a job as you're going to do against that Philly O-line and Saquon Barkley. I don't know if you thought the same thing, but it's a weird thing to say in the app. I'm like, hey, they actually did a pretty good job on Saquon.
Yeah, they competed.
Yeah, they did.
They competed.
Yeah.
But they
when you lose, when you're playing your third guard of the day and you lose, you're down your 3 best wide receivers.
Right. You lost, who'd you lose in that game?
They lost Elgton
Wicks.
Jenkins.
I saw Wicks get hit.
Well, yeah.
Wow.
So Dobbs so Watson's out, Dobbs and Wicks leave. Right?
Dobbs was the first one to leave.
Not Dobbs.
Wicks
Dobbs
and
Jaden
Reed.
Jaden Reed.
Yeah.
So you're down to Wicks.
Right.
So now you're down your 3 top
Wicks,
wide receivers.
Heath, whoever Heath is, he's the one that couldn't stay in bounds at the end of the game. That was him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he turns around and, what do you do? Remember when I said if you don't have to jump, don't?
Yes.
But if you do, you don't have to jump high enough to get the ball and get down.
So that you can quickly get your
feet in bounds.
So they lost their 3 best wide receivers. They lost Elgton Jenkins, their left guard, who's really good, and then they were down to they didn't. The backup was getting them killed, so then they went to another backup. So and Jordan Love threw a terrible interception at the end of the half, just absolutely terrible. Where they were moving the ball, maybe they could have gotten points, because they knew they had to kick the ball back off to Philly to start. So 4 turnovers on the road, you're kind of toast. I mean, I don't think Philly looked great in that win, but
Didn't have to. And that's the luxury of playing at home. When you're at home, you don't have to play your best football to still play winning football.
What's the rule on possession here? Like when you're in a scrum, I thought if there's clear video evidence, it's your ball.
A fumble, or
on the opening kickoff. I meant like where he fumbled it. But the player got the ball back. The overhead camera, because it was a kickoff play.
Right.
Is looking at the bird's eye view of the Packer player clearly with possession of the football as the pile builds on top of him. And because he got it stripped away, they gave it to the Eagles. I didn't think that was allowed.
I thought once he got smacked, even though it looked like he had possession, the ball was loose.
I know, but he recovered it, though, I thought. I thought the rule was if they have video evidence, and maybe I misunderstand the rule. No. I thought if you had video evidence that was then your ball. He was back in possession on the ground with the pile building on top of him, and you see the ball because it was a kickoff play. You see the bird's eye view from the camera. And I was like, how is that not Packers ball? I don't care what happens to the Packers, believe me. But, like, it was a surprising way to start for me. I was like, why is that not Green Bay's ball? I'm trying to remember how Pereira explained it with Brady and with Burkhardt. I don't even know how. I was just, like, sort of confused right off the get-go. I'm like, what's the rule on that? I thought you couldn't lose that in the scrum if there's clear evidence.
Okay, Carm, come here.
Let me see.
Here's a still picture. Where's the scrum?
Well, here. Does this play?
Go ahead. But where's the scrum? The ball's loose. Where's the scrum? Well, I just showed you a still shot of it. Now,
what I'm saying is
it's going to run.
Gets the ball back there. You know what I'm saying? Like
I know, but you were telling me there was a scrum. That ball is clearly loose. Where is the scrum? You said,
maybe I'm missing the pile on top of him.
Right. Now, I understand, but I gave you a picture of the ball being loose with no scrum on top of him.
I'll show you the play. Hold on.
Yeah, well, but again, I think the still shot is kind of damning to your argument. All right. And if the ball is loose like that with no scrum, if the scrum comes in after, the ball is clearly loose. Right there. Go one down if you had to. That's when you just looked at. Problem is you got to play the commercial.
Oh.
You don't want to play the commercial. I get it. I hate the commercials too. It's nonstop. They force you to see them. At least in our genre, Carm, we know exactly where they're scheduled. You know, they give you a little bit of a break. Yeah, you can take a little bit of a deep breath, that sort of thing. Here, they just slam them in your face, and all you do is you hate them and you ignore them. So there you go. That's the way I feel.
Right, no
boom.
Question. Ball's
Lock a
out
notch.
He's got it back.
Where? When did he get it back?
He's got it.
Oh, dude, that's not to be decided. That ball is clearly out, though.
Of course it is.
Yeah. Boom, it's gone.
Of course
it's gone.
What I'm saying is
no. That's not possession, though.
It's not?
No, you just curl your arm around it. That's not possession. That's free ball. Right. Free ball.
Man.
Yeah, what are you talking? I watched it yesterday. I go, did he watch the same game I watched? Free ball. No.
I thought it looks like he regathers it and has it while he's on the ground, that would be possession.
I'd say he's the first one that got an arm on it, but he definitely didn't possess it. And it's hard to possess it that way. That's where all that bad stuff happens.
Yeah, the punching.
Right. The grabbing and the clutching, Carm. The grabbing and the clutching, he's on his back there. I can just imagine he may have been accosted at that point.
I'm sure he was.
To let go of the football, even if he had it. I like that.
Ira wants to clarify that rule with us. Ira on the west side. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, Ferrero said that the camera above, they can't use that camera. That's the reason why it got reversed.
Oh, it's one of those situations where they can't use it because it's like not every stadium has that. Is that what it was? They couldn't go to that view? They weren't allowed to see that view of it?
That camera is just like for the game, not a actual camera that New York and them use.
Yeah, like they can't use that view of it, or the refs never get to see that one. That's what, is that what he said?
They showed it when he grabbed it.
Okay.
And he grabbed it and he held it.
Okay.
And it should have been their ball, but then when everybody jumped on them, they pulled it away from them. So
okay, all right. See, then I was wondering. I'm glad you caught that. Thanks, Ira. Yeah, I said, what did Pereira say? It was odd to me because I was like, it sure looks like that he's got, he repossessed that ball. So, yeah, that's just some of the craziness of yesterday. We'll talk about all the action from the weekend with you. Bears coaching search is front and center going into week 2 now, Yerk. Mike McCarthy seems like he's going to be very much alive here for this Bears job. They asked for permission last week to talk to him. They were denied. You thought maybe, all right, well, Jerry's denying because he's going to get something done long-term with McCarthy. Yeah. That is not going to happen. Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys have parted ways, and now the Bears don't need permission from anyone to talk to Mike McCarthy. They can just welcome the former head coach of the Green Bay Packers into their building. You think they'll do this one in person? I don't know. I mean, maybe. They talked to Ron in person, Ron Rivera.
He never had to do a Zoom?
He did not have to do a Zoom. Some of that could be to check the box of the Rooney Rule, too. Ron's a minority candidate, so you have to do 2 in person outside your organization. They did talk to Ron. Everybody else has been on Zoom as far as we understand. I would think that they bring Mike McCarthy into their building, and we're wondering what people think about McCarthy getting this job. How would you feel? I feel like most Bears fans are going to kind of be lukewarm on it. It's the best way I could put the way I'd feel about it. I think Vrabel was a real good candidate. But like you said, you didn't really put yourself in position to get him.
You didn't.
You just didn't.
You needed to maneuver early to find a way to get things done so you can get him in your building and never let him leave.
And they didn't do that.
You didn't.
So how serious were you about Mike Vrabel?
Oh, we made a late push, which means nothing.
Oh, George was enamored with Mike Vrabel. Well,
that's the White Sox saying they offered the best contract to Manny Machado.
Yeah, like, okay.
We offered him the best contract. Really? $250 guaranteed against what he got? Doesn't seem like the best, but you should have seen our bonus structure.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, how serious were you if you never brought him into your building? And maybe Mike Vrabel told them, I'm not doing an in-person interview. I'll talk to you, but it's got to be on Zoom. I mean, if that happened, okay, what are the Bears going to do then? But how serious were you, or how much were you pushing when you never shook the guy's hand?
Yeah.
Well, that's how business is done in 2024.
No, I don't think
they do
so.
Zoom. You don't want to shake the guy's hand that you might hire to be your head coach?
The guy that you're going to probably pay $14 million to?
Yeah.
You're going to hire him on Zoom? That's the way the corporate world works.
I don't care what the accounting firm of Billings, Jurko, and Joey does.
Do we
and
cheat him and how?
Yeah, right. I don't care. I don't care how the little law firm down the street does it. This is the National Football League.
It's the NFL.
You're hiring a head coach that, like Jurko said, you're going to pay $15 million
and he's
going to
bring his crew in here. He's going to bring his crew in here, hopefully that you don't fire 4th game into the season because of salacious activities.
Zooms is how it's done in 2024. So I don't know how serious the Bears ever really did they talk themselves into their mind like, hey, we're close with Mike Vrabel? I mean, how close could they have ever been? You didn't shake the guy's hand. I mean, I don't know. How could it have been, so what late push are you trying to make? 312-332-3776. Patrick's on the Northwest Side. What's up, Patrick?
Hey, gentlemen. I called the other day liking the coaching process to the 3-horse race. Now we know that Kraft came in first, and we got George up against Brady. And I'm thinking this might be the tortoise and the hare now. I think Mrs. Johnson's not going to want to raise her kids in Vegas in that fast life. They made comments before about not wanting. They like the submit situation. So I think we might have that. That might be our ace in the hole. What do you think?
Wait, so the ace in the hole is that Ben Johnson's wife doesn't want to go to Vegas?
She may not want to live in Vegas with family. With family.
With family?
Yeah. I'm thinking. My wife wouldn't go there.
I don't know.
My family lived there. I mean, it's a different world. You got to protect the industry. The guy is a computer scientist. Okay, he's not. He's from a small town out east, I think. I think family's going to trump.
I don't know. Who knows? We can't begin to get into the mind of Ben Johnson's spouse.
Charleston, South Carolina for Ben Johnson, and Asheville, North Carolina.
I have no idea.
That's where he went to high school.
I have no idea.
I'm just letting you know.
Frank is in Naperville. What's up, Frank?
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call. I'm happy to hear. I guess I could be swayed on McCarthy. I appreciate some of the stuff that you guys were saying, like the positivity and the lost season and all that stuff. But I think when I'm thinking about coaches, I'd want to focus more on the red flags. And I think one of them that you mentioned was the clock management. And the other one that I'm thinking of is that I keep hearing consistently about McCarthy and his offenses is that they lack any kind of ingenuity, special kind of pre-snap motions. They're very vanilla, and they just don't work in the postseason. So, I could be convinced if you tell me he could extract Caleb's greatest potential, and I think at his greatest potential, he's better than Dak Prescott. So, and you need dynamic quarterbacks in the postseason anyways now. So if you can tell me he can do that, and Caleb could overcome some of those deficiencies in McCarthy's offense, then you could probably convince me. But otherwise, I'm looking at Ben Johnson for that.
Summed up well, Frank. Yeah, I mean, think about the last data point we have when they were in the playoffs a year ago. They got worked by Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur. They got worked, Yerk. I mean, Mike McCarthy got worked last year by a rookie, and some of that's on Dak. I know it. He's one of these guys, like it's a little Herbert-ish. Lights get real bright, and all of a sudden, like, it just doesn't look good. And I mean, we've seen that with Dak in the playoffs, and I'm a huge Dak Prescott fan. I think Dak's really good. You know what I think of Justin Herbert. The more and more you see it, where they get in these playoff games and you go, geez, boy, did he play poorly. I'm not saying it'll be that way forever. Maybe Herbert figures it out. Maybe Dak figures it out someday. So I don't want to put it all on Mike McCarthy. Some of that's got to be on Dak from last year. But they got worked by a young quarterback making his first ever playoff start on the road. They got their doors blown off. Absolutely got their doors blown off. And I think there are a few of those data points over the years when we look at Mike McCarthy's history in the postseason, and you go, I don't know. I don't know that I'll ever get any more than lukewarm on it if that's what happens. You know, until he comes in and if they go out and they win 14 games next year and they go to the NFC title game, yeah, that'll be awesome. I'll be excited. But I think lukewarm's about as good as I can get.
I've got no problem with McCarthy if McCarthy gets the job.
Okay.
I want Ben Johnson.
I know you do.
I want Ben Johnson. But I told you what was going to happen with the Bears anyway from the get-go. They'll be settling for somebody.
Well, you'd have to probably pay for Mike, right? What was he making down there?
$10 million?
That's what I was going to ask. $10 mil?
Yeah.
312-332-3776. I want to talk a little bit more about last night's game, too. And just, I think there might be a common theme amongst Bears fans I felt, I think, watching that game unfold, like what was going through your mind. I'd like to discuss some of that. If you want to react to Super Wildcard Weekend so far, and if I know most fans just want to talk about the Bears coaching search, and that's totally cool. We'll continue to do it all week and until it actually happens. Marcus Freeman, that was reported over the weekend. That the Bears would like to talk to him. He's not talking to anybody for at least a week. He's got a national championship game he's getting ready for a week from tonight. So this thing's really going to get dragged out even further if you want to wait and talk to Marcus Freeman. But he talked on RG3's podcast about rumors, his team, and the NFL versus college. And I thought it was an interesting, 1 minute soundbite from Marcus Freeman. I want to play that for you coming up next. 312-332-3776.